Three, two, one, and we're recording. Guys, welcome back to another episode of the Bad Design Podcast presented by The Pick Six. I'm your host, Sean, and this week we got a very special guest, pretty well known. Works with almost every major sporting company, I guess you'd say, out there. Tyson Beck, appreciate you coming on, man. How have you been?
Hey, Sean, how's it going? I've been really well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. I was with you in San Francisco back in April, right? For oh my gosh, why can't I think of the name of the event?
About 5-6 days.
Yeah. Well, why can't Dubz Against the World?
Yeah, we stayed in the same hotel, different rooms, and they put me in a closet.
Right. That was we played. What was the card game that Matt had showed us when we were there? Do you remember the name of that?
Jeez, it's on the tip of my tongue. You dominated it. You low key dominated. Matt was garbage. Matt was just straight up garbage. I kind of won a few, lost a few, but I was either first or second. You were first majority, but Matt was just last. I can't remember. Was it Boulder Dash or something? Was it?
No.
I don't even know. I don't even know what Boulder Dash is. It was something like that. It was some weird name.
I can't remember the name, but like for those people listening, pretty much Matt Sonorian, if any of you know him, I had roomed with him, and yeah, you, Tyson, you were like in a closet like 4 or 5 stories higher. Literally, they turned a closet into your room. Yeah. And Matt had showed us this card game. Neither one of us had played it, and I think after the first game, me and you won every single time. I think Matt won like maybe a couple times the remainder of the trip. But that was probably one of the funniest things, was him in that card game.
Oh yeah, it was, and we spent, I reckon, nearly every night in San Francisco looking for a deck of Uno cards.
Yeah, I think we finally found one the last night.
Yeah, we went to a Best Buy and I got Mario. We got Super Mario Uno cards. Yeah, that was it was a good trip though. That was obviously for the Dubz Against the World 2 exhibition. That was really fun. And yeah, San Francisco is a cool place. There's obviously a lot of people. You got Bleacher Report there,
right?
And yeah, I loved it. You know, it was pretty cool. I think we had like a photo, and there was like 9 or 10 designers that kind of were from Posterizers back in the day, or had some kind of tie with it. And that's crazy to me. You know, not you got like 10 people around the world all coming together for one thing.
It was
and
sweet.
I think it's a really cool thing when like you meet people online. Like I met you online, it wasn't like awkward or anything. Like, you know,
right.
You think like, I don't know. I always thought like meeting people online might be like a first date sort of thing. Like you don't know what to talk about and stuff, but like you meet someone, you just like, we just like talk for hours. Like there was no like awkward silences or anything. Like you just feel like you know the person.
Yeah.
And we've all got we share the same interests. So yeah, it's really cool to meet people, and everyone's so friendly. Like I know, like, you know, a lot of people like roast people online, like a bit of a joke sort of thing. But, you know, when you meet people in person, everyone's actually ridiculously nice to each other.
No, that was a great trip. I mean, meeting all those artists is really something it's pretty crazy, because you get to know these people through social media, like you said, and then you see it all come together. And, you know, meeting people like Vince and Sean and obviously you. Was very cool. I'm sad. It sounded like Vince wasn't going to have the event anymore, and if you missed out, you know, sorry for that. But it was really a great event. I hope he does bring it back, but I'm not sure where he stands on that anymore since it ended.
Yeah, I mean, Vince has given me some. I won't give details because I'll let him give details if things get confirmed. But yeah, he's talked about possible other exhibitions that may come up, which could be really cool. So yeah, it's definitely something to look out for.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sweet. So last time I saw you, LeBron hadn't been on the Lakers yet, and obviously now he is. You know, you being a big Kobe fan, like what? Obviously you're excited he's on the team, but now I feel like that debate takes on a whole new level.
I mean, yeah, I don't like kind of like talking about the debate? Like, if you're talking about like, are you talking about GOAT? Or like who,
Yeah, like who's better,
Oh, the whole like the discussion about who's the those lists that I roasted Bleacher Report hard when they put up that list. I'm like,
we have the greatest Laker of all time now.
Wear the Lakers jersey, and like Kobe was like 8th or something like that. Karl Malone was in front of him, and LeBron was number 1 and all that stuff. But even if that was like the best player, if that's not like the best Lakers career, it's still like there's no way Kobe is 8th. Like,
right.
No one in the right mind will have Karl Malone in front of Kobe in there, and there was a few others in front of him. I can't remember. Was Pau Gasol in front of him? Maybe.
I hope not. That'd be pretty bad if he was.
Maybe, but I remember like I tweeted him back, and it got like 1,000 retweets or something, which was pretty funny. I think a lot of people were just I think. When that happened, like the whole LeBron thing, it's like, geez, all the media companies would just be going crazy because this is what they wanted, like LeBron to play for, like a big market team. Like now that they talk about him all the time, but now they can talk about him all the time
without forcing it.
Yeah, it's just insane. So, I don't like the whole like, let's wait until he plays. Let's wait until. I hardly doubt the Lakers will win anything while he's here. I saw something that is like 74. When he plays 74 or something more minutes, that'll be the time on the court. Kobe had to the moment that he tore his Achilles. So LeBron is like a freak how kind of lucky he's been with no injuries across his whole career. He's been healthy his whole career, and he wasn't injured in the finals. He was not injured in the finals.
Didn't break his thumb.
Nothing happened. No postseason surgery. Nothing happened after that.
He was dunking like 3 days later.
I'm not even going to talk. That was just crazy. No player would do that. But yeah, he obviously maintains himself really well. He would have the best, trainers. His diet would be insane. So he invests a lot of money and time into his body to get it perfect. So, but injuries, it's also luck. So I feel like, when the Lakers got Steve Nash, I know Steve Nash isn't LeBron, but when they got Steve Nash, injuries started to happen and all that stuff. So. And look at Kobe when he did it. He was perfect until he did his Achilles, and then it was just all downhill from that. I think you're crazy to think like people. I hear some Lakers fans, or they're not even Lakers fans. They're more like LeBron fans that are Lakers fans now, saying that LeBron's going to win at least 2 to 3 championships with the Lakers. I'd just be happy if he gets through 2 to 3 seasons.
Oh man.
Well, like at his age, like he can break down, so I'm hoping he doesn't.
You don't think they'll win it all, though? Like, you don't think they'll win at least one title with him?
What you think they will?
I think not this year, next season. That if Durant somehow or some reason left the Warriors, that he could get it.
I think Durant actually leaves, to be honest. So yeah, that's interesting that you said that. I think there's no way to say they will or won't. The Lakers will win because, like, yeah, no one will know. Like, the Lakers will need another superstar. They could get a Kawhi, they could get someone else, but I don't know. Like, do superstars want to come to the Lakers and play underneath LeBron? Despite how old he will be, they will still be playing underneath him. Kyrie clearly didn't like doing that. So I think it takes the right kind of superstar to do it. And I don't know who. I'd love for the Lakers to get like a Klay Thompson next. I think that's who they should focus on. Klay Thompson next free agency. You pull a really integral piece out of the Warriors, bring that on. And
right.
Klay is a star that can work being the second best player on a team. If you bring in a lot of other stars, stars, maybe they're not going to want to play with the Lakers with like a LeBron that has such a high usage rate. So I don't know, but again, like I think it's just too far forward, because you look at like Chris Paul and James Harden, everyone in the entire world said that would not work.
Yeah.
And they were the best team last year. They were better than the Warriors. So they just didn't end up winning it. So yeah, I think we're just going to have to wait and see. But at this moment, they're not going to win this year.
No, not unless the Warriors have a million injuries. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, anything's possible. Like, but at the end of the day, the Warriors didn't look good at any point. This past year, they cruised through the regular season. They didn't look that good in the playoffs against Houston. They looked beatable, but then obviously when they matched up against Cleveland, they looked really good then. But I think anyone would have looked good against Cleveland coming out the West. So yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. I think the best part about it though is that finally the Lakers and the Celtics are good at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I think like within our lifetime, you know, you're like, what is it, 26 or something, and I'm 29. I'd probably say, you know, in the last 2 decades, what was it, from 2007, the 07-08 season, and then through to the 9-10 season, the Lakers and Celtics were both really good.
Right.
So we've only had like 3 years out of 2 decades. So I think that's personally what I'm most excited for, that the Lakers and Celtics have a good rivalry. I mean, that would be ideal if the Lakers and the Celtics kind of made it to the finals.
It'd be
I think
huge.
It would be disappointing if the Lakers made it to the finals and they played like a Philly or a Toronto.
Right.
It would be really cool if they played the Celtics, because you've got the LeBron and Kyrie thing as well.
Yeah.
And then you've obviously got... That just adds like another chapter onto the, you know, history.
It'd be huge. I mean, there's no doubt. It would be just like it was through 08 to 10. It would be that level.
Yeah, and Boston's got one more ring than the Lakers? Is that
right. Yeah, so that's like, you
well.
You want to see the best hashing it out. So that would, I think the NBA even wants that to some degree. So.
Oh, 100%. That would be a pot of gold. Yeah, that'd be really cool. And it'll also be cool for the youth, like the young kids that are kind of only, like, the last 4 years has been Warriors versus Cleveland. And, you know, for example, if anyone's just gotten into basketball in the last 4 years, they might know nothing about the Lakers and Celtics history. So even if they just played each other, like all the kind of promos and everything that they would be thrashing out through the finals, that would be really cool to kind of watch. And it would give the youth a lot better understanding of the history of the game.
Well, if anything, you know, you could get the Celtics Lakers on 2K this year, right? You can make it. If you can't have it in real life, you can make it happen in the video game.
Yeah, that's true. That's always an option.
I mean, speaking of 2K, you got to design the cover, right, for, what was it, the Chinese edition of NBA 2K?
Yeah, so I didn't know about it. Was kind of like came across oddly, because I just got an email from a company, and they were just like, "Do you want to design like an artwork for a basketball game?" And that's basically all it said. And I was just like, like, can you give me a little bit more details? And then they were like, "Oh, it's like 2K online too." And I'd never heard of it before. And yeah, it's the 2K, from my understanding, 2K don't kind of produce the same game that we play in Australia, in America, like the most of the world play with, like 2K19, 2K18, 17, whatever. They have their own kind of online game, and I think they don't make it every year. 2K Online #1 came out, I think, in 2010. I could be wrong, or it could be 2013, maybe 2013.
Wait, so it's the same game? Like, it's only produced in China? Like, what?
Yeah, it's only China. Yeah. It might. I mean, I don't know all the details. I'm pretty sure it's only China.
You get a free copy by any chance? You get to play this?
I think it might be free. I think you just go on the website and download or play. I think it's just like an online, like, you know, you just you go on the computer and it's actually like a website. Like, it's not like a game you download. Like, you go on the website, you log in, and like the website is the game. So you log in, you can chat to people, you can walk around, play and stuff like that. But I don't know if it is like Chinese is like, you know, they've got that whole like restriction on social media and stuff like that. I don't know if this is just for them or if it's open to other people. I've gone on the site, but it's all like in another language. So it's a bit hard to, but it's pretty cool. I didn't know, and I assume that they just kind of like maybe modify it slightly with the rosters and stuff like that every year. But then they only bring out a new game every, you know. I mean, I'm all for that. I don't think there's any need for a new game every year.
Right. No, it doesn't change too much in my opinion.
Nah. Update the rosters. You can, you know, provide some patches and stuff like that. You can download, but yeah, I don't think it requires a new game every year. It's not like, you know, it's not like the games where it's like Tony Hawk 1, Tony Hawk 2, 3, 4, like that kind of stuff where it would be like, oh, it's like a new game. Like every time you bought the Tony Hawk Pro Skater game, it was like it felt like you're buying it. It's like a new game.
Right.
Whereas, yeah, the sports games, I feel like it just seems to be the same game. And then it's just like maybe like a few things to kind of entice you to get it.
Like, so they gave you the cover athletes. It was Lillard and Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, that's right.
So how, like, I'm guessing 2K, you talked to 2K, right? And they...
No, it wasn't. Yeah, no, it's not 2K at all. It's a company called Tencent. And I hadn't heard about it. It's a massive company. Like I Googled it, and they're worth more than Facebook. They're like, the net worth is like 522 billion or something like that.
Wow.
So it's insane. They're a huge company, but they seem, from my understanding, they buy out the rights to the games or something, or work on behalf of, because they do stuff like FIFA, like they do FIFA. I think they do Call of Duty. They do like all the big games, but then they do it for China. So where I thought like 2K would build the game for China, but I think that they buy the rights or something for it and then manage it themselves. So 2K didn't contact me at any point. It was Tencent, but they I don't think they spoke English. So the client, I had an agency in LA, I think it was Unisaw or something. They were kind of they talked to the client. They came back to me. And then they obviously broke down what was said, told me in English, and then we worked from there. So it was kind of like I worked for the client and the agency at the same time, but there were language barriers, so it was it was good that the agency was able to tell me everything in English, so I could understand what was going on.
Okay, so then
it was really tight turnaround though. I think it was only like 10 days or something. I worked on it, and I think we worked on maybe five different covers, I think. And that was the one that was chosen to do, but it wasn't kind of like me just going, like, they didn't kind of hit me up and say like, can you just make something cool? It was just kind of like looking at some of my old work and going, can you make something look like this for the cover? So they wanted something with like paint splashes, and they wanted something that was bold and out there, because that's kind of like what the Chinese market is. Like, they're into like loud and noisy things. Like, some people might look at the cover and go like, oh, it looks too messy, it's not for me. And I mean, I understand that, I respect that opinion. I mean, it looks, I even probably prefer something a little bit more simplistic for a cover, but that's the market over there, that, you know, they're trying to make something loud and noisy and striking for the market, because that's kind of what I guess their audience is supposedly after.
No, it definitely is loud. I mean, if you put it on the shelf next to, I don't know if you've seen the Madden cover. Yeah, there's just the one color background, simple photography. It would pop off the shelf, you know, next to that. I mean, it feels.
Yeah, both have got pros and cons, obviously. But I think like they kind of they put the artwork on like a building in China, and that kind of looked cool when it was like really big. Like when the bold and kind of like messy stuff is like big, it can look amazing. It looked really good on the building. But when translated to a cover, it might not be as kind of impacting. But like you said, though, if you put it side by side, you stood back, there would be a lot of contrast. And I think, both had pros and cons.
You're definitely right. It has a Chinese feel. Like after you said that, I was like, man, you're right. That's like the Chinese style. Their market is like that busy, like hit you with that style. I totally agree with you. That's interesting that you pointed that out.
Yeah, and it was like I've been wanting to do like a game cover for a long time, so it was definitely like a really cool project to do. When it came through, I was just like, this is. But then I was kind of a little bit scared at the time because you've got like the time zone and everything.
Right.
You've got my time zone, China's time zone, and America's time zone. The agency, so it was basically like working around the clock at all hours just to kind of get things done.
Yeah. So talk like you are a full-time freelancer, right? Like that's how you would, I guess, like I don't know if you were to define yourself, like you take on multiple projects. You don't work for one singular company.
Yeah, I think that would be the good probably the right way to put it. Full-time freelancer, and I do it all from my home, working with a bunch of different clients.
So, like, talk about like because like I feel like there's a lot of pros and cons to being a full-time freelancer. Like I only freelance on part-time, but like I feel like the hours you could create yourself, but when you have tight deadlines, like you said with the 2K cover, like how do you manage all of this work and to fit it in, like schedule it out? I feel like you have to really be like organized to get everything in line.
Well, I feel like this question right here could be like a 2-hour discussion. It's a really, kind of like open-ended question with a lot of answers. It's tough. Like I think anything, like I guess it's like you're running your own business. So the way I look at it is, I'm a one-man agency. That's the other way to look at it. I don't kind of work collaboratively on projects. When clients come to me, they want the entire project done by me. So it really is a one-man agency. So, the hard times is, like you mentioned, scheduling work and stuff like that. But to be honest, I'm bad at like kind of like time management, scheduling stuff out. If I do whatever I get, I try and do. Obviously, you have to say no to a lot of work during busy times, or you might try and kind of like deflect them to possibly doing the project at a later date when it's fine by me. But the hardest thing is like it's just a work-life balance. I'm contracted with the NBA, and that like I end up probably out of the last 365 days, I reckon I would have done some form of work for them in the probably 350 days at least.
Wow.
I'll probably get like 1 day off a month. I mean, that might only be like, one day might be 10 hours a day for them, or it might be 1 hour a day. But no matter what, I kind of need to always be by a laptop, by a computer, like needing to like, in case I get like, oh, hey, can you do this tonight? Oh, we need this presented for us in the morning. Like a lot of the stuff I do for the NBA doesn't get seen on social. I'm doing like a lot of like branding stuff, templated stuff, and like kind of like animation stuff and things that aren't actually on social or what I'm posting. I really don't post much of my NBA work anymore like I used to. I'm no longer doing like the stat graphics and like that kind of stuff that maybe some of my followers would know me from, or like the tuning graphics and kind of like maybe happy birthdays and hype graphics. And it's more so like more branded projects, which is cool, something different. Yeah, it's really hard. I don't think there's like a way that you can like answer the question as in like, oh, this is how I manage it. Like, I
Yeah.
think you got to do what you got to do. Like, you might get up at 6 a.m. and work till 2 a.m. One day, and
Right.
then the next day you might only do a couple hours. But the hardest thing is kind of like working with like like finding time to do stuff with friends and family and things like
Yeah.
that. Like, I can't commit to anything. Like, if someone's just like, oh, like, you know, oh, do you want to go away, like, or do you want to, like, you know, I don't know, go to the beach, like, next Saturday? It's like, well, I can tell you on Saturday. Like, I can't tell you. Like, anything can change. So,
That
it's really, yeah.
that's got to
I
be
really
frustrating.
like supporting life that kind of, like, understands that work comes first.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, that's how it is. And really, if I have any spare time on my hands, I'm just doing personal work. I may post it, I may not post it, but I find myself if I've got any spare time, I'm doing personal work.
Wow. Yeah, that's got to be frustrating because I mean like yeah, planning a vacation, you can't even guarantee you can go away, you know, in
Yeah,
so and such month.
but like you said, though, there are pros and cons. Like, you know, like if you work full time for a business, like you can't just go like. To be honest, when I want to go on a holiday, I book it. I don't tell anyone. I don't tell my clients.
Right.
I just do it, and I just bring my laptop. We're in San Francisco. I just brought my laptop. Did a bit of, you know, I had a 13-hour flight or 15-hour flight, and I just did most of my work on the flight. So then, you know, when I touched down in America, there was like nothing to do for the first day, and like I just did, you know, I may have got up in the morning. Like you like to sleep in. I think you were sleeping in until maybe like 10, or was it Matt? I think Matt was sleeping in or something. But I was getting up at like 6 a.m. just doing a couple of hours, and then that's done for the day, sort of thing. So, but it was actually that was funny that the trip to San Francisco. I was working with I was doing like a trading card project for a client,
Mm-hmm.
and they needed to go to print on the day that I was flying out to America, and I told them that, and I got everything ready. I sent it through 2 days before, and then as I was boarding the plane, they were like, "Oh, well, you know, is this something needed changing or something?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I'm about to board like a flight for 15 hours. Like,
Oh.
like I can do it. I can do the changes on the flight, but you're not going to get it today. Like they
No.
wanted it today. So stuff like that was just like, well, I can't do anything. So,
Wow.
yeah, I guess like I said, it's kind of that one man agency type thing where yeah, there's pros and cons, but I'm not like a 9 to 5 person. Like if someone someone wants something done on the weekend, I'll do it. Someone wants something done at 2 a.m., I'll do it. Like yeah, just at the end of the day, I love what I do. I really enjoy it, so it doesn't feel like work for me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's the same for you and a lot of other people listening.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's just it's easy when you enjoy doing it.
Yeah, you know, because I've had to do I've took on, especially before I have this full-time position now. I remember I had to do a 100-page booklet for a university, and I remember spending literally 24 hours one day working on the entire thing. And you know, I still enjoyed the project, so it wasn't so much of, you know, a grind, but when you're freelancing, it's almost like you got to do what you got to do and take
And
the work and
you
let
had a
it.
full-time job at the same time
At
doing.
the first time I did it, I didn't have the full-time job. The second time I did it, I did have the full-time job, and that was a nightmare.
Yeah, that's what I was going. Yeah, and yeah, I actually had a full-time job as a designer here in Adelaide in Australia, where but I no longer do. I'm just full-time freelance now. But I used to do like all the sports stuff on the side, and then my full-time design job in Adelaide, and that was crazy. Like I was doing like 18-hour days, like 7 days a week, like, and I did that for like maybe like 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And I only did that. I didn't do it because it's what I wanted to do. I wanted to set myself up early when I was young. I actually crashed out. Was it last year? I can't even remember. The years go so quickly. I think it was last year. I actually had I had 2 seizures, and I've never had them before.
Wow.
And I had to the last one I went to emergency, and then they were kind of ran all these tests and things like that, and I had to go to all these clinics and see like neurologists and stuff like that, and no one gave me an answer. No matter, like, they didn't know what triggered it, they didn't know anything. But what I kind of looked at, I kind of went back on my work, and I looked at when the two seizures happened that year, and I put it down to 2 dates that I ran off. There was like 3 days previous to the seizures that I had like 2 to 3 hours sleep a night for like 3 consecutive days.
Wow.
So I was like working till 3 a.m. and then I got up for like 6 a.m. to start work again, and then go to my job and stuff like that. So when that happened, when I kind of like worked out that time, I was like, shit, like I'm not like an 18-year-old kid. I can't do fucking like all-nighters and stuff like that all the time. So I looked at that, I was like, man, I gotta try and put my health first. Well, not my health. I mean, I don't think my health will ever come first, but I need to put a high priority with my health, and I think that's a big thing for like when I'm saying these things, there's probably other people that are doing the exact same thing as me. So it's not like, I work so much harder than anyone else. Like that's a lie. A lot of people doing 2 jobs, 3 jobs, working 7 days a week. So I think, but if you can relate to that, I think, you really got to kind of find time to sleep, chill out, even if it feels like, it's kind of like, even if you sleep and kind of chill out a little, and it feels like your work is getting more stressful because you're having less time spent on the work. But at the end of the day, I think I literally was in a really bad state. And since then, I've gotten more sleep every night, and my health's been amazing.
No, that's good to hear. Yeah, because like I said, I know that grind. I mean, for me, for a while, I was like, I just need like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I'll be able to make it through the next day. But that adds up after a while.
Yeah, and it's fine, like one night a week, 2 nights a week or something. But it's when you start doing it on consecutive days where like you're running off, maybe 15 hours sleep over 5 days.
Right.
And that's just ridiculous, and your body will just like absolutely crash. But it is a positive that I'm able to kind of work from home, so I can literally just roll out of bed or just work in bed. So I don't have to kind of commute. That's like, I know people have crazy commutes. Like you have to commute an hour or 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day. I mean, that's time that I can just sit in my room and kind of do work. So I feel like being able to work from home has definitely helped me get more stuff done. I'm not distracted as well. I don't really play computer games and watch TV and stuff like that. So
you never on the Fortnite train there?
No, I never got into it. Were you on it?
Yeah, I was playing it a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Who's the best Fortnite player in the design community?
Oh man, I hate to give this dude a shout out, but Enrique Productions is probably the best one. Yeah, I used to run with him. We never won. He probably would blame me, but he's probably the best in the Fort. I heard Matt was pretty bad.
Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, he played a good bit, I heard, and I never got him in a game with me, but I heard from others he wasn't the greatest.
Does that shock you?
Not after I saw his other game skills.
But yeah, that maybe I thought, you know what, I tried to give myself 2 weeks off. Last year, I think it was around August or September, and that's the other thing with like being like a full-time freelancer is you don't get sick days, you don't get leave. Like,
right.
You want a week off, like that means you're not getting paid for that week, or so yeah, the kind of, you have to kind of battle through. Like, you can't pull sickies. Like, you know, other people have the luxury of being able to kind of like, oh yeah, I'll take 3 days off from work, but you can't do that because you're not going to get paid, and the work's just sitting there anyway. But I tried to take like 2 weeks off in August or September last year, and I was just like, you know what, I had the new 2K18. I think I had a couple other games, maybe I downloaded or something. And I played for a day. Not even a day. It was probably like 4 hours or something. And I was just like, dude, I'm fucking bored. I used to be the biggest gamer when I grew up. Like, I don't know if it's... See, you're kind of at the age where I probably lost playing games at like 23, actually.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's me or if it's the games. And I still don't know.
Probably the game. I mean, game's definitely part of it. I feel like video games now are worse than they were like 5-6 years ago.
Because a lot of the times, like, if me and my friends are like drinking or something, like, I'll go over a friend's house, or some friends will come over my house, and we'll have like drinks, and we'll go like, we'll just play like a PlayStation game and like drink to it. And like, we're never like playing the new stuff. We'll get out like Mario Kart, Mario Party. We'll play like an old school NHL game. We'll play like Beijing 2008 Olympics, like just random shit like that, and we all absolutely love it. But if someone like puts in like a 2K18 or something, it's just, I don't know if it's like too real, and it's like it loses the fun out of it. Like there's like I had more fun playing like there's like an NBA courtside game on Nintendo 64, I think, or Super Nintendo. I can't remember which one. It's got like Kobe on the cover. It's from '96. And it was like, it's that bad, but it's so fun to play. It's kind of like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sure. It was the same thing with like the COD games. I was big into COD, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And then like, I think Modern Warfare 2 was my favorite.
That was my favorite by far.
Yeah. And then then the next games kept coming out, and I was just like, every time that came out, I was just like, is it me or is it the game? And like I said, I still don't know. And again, you know,
yeah.
I don't know if it's just like, this whole like nostalgia thing. You know how everyone's just like, that whole thing was like, Michael Jordan's better, you know, than LeBron or something, because people are like, it's just nostalgia or something. But I feel like, there is a bit of nostalgia, like TV shows and stuff like that. Like, if you go back and watch a movie from like your childhood days, you might go like, man, this is trash. Like, this is trash. Garbage, or it might be the other way around, where it'd be like, this is a classic, like they don't make movies like this anymore. So,
that's a good point. What was I gonna say? That actually, something I've noticed though, and now we've totally got off track with video games. When I think now with the world of social media, right? Like, you're almost never off, even when you're off. Like, because like social media is always changing, and everything's happens at like the snap of fingers, and people want like results like instantly, right? Like, you gotta hit a moment. And even at my full-time job, when I'm off or like I'm out sick, there will be things that still need to be done even when I'm off. I don't know, I just feel like that's the way the world has turned, and everything is in like high demand on social media like right away, especially in our field.
Yeah, that's a really good point. But I think what people might not know is I think that's worked really big to my advantage, because I work in a different time zone. So, something big happens in the morning or something, and someone wants something done, like, it might be hard to find, like, say you've got an internal design team, like, you're not going to be able to get them to work at something from midnight to 3 a.m.
Right.
But, like, that's like 2 PM for me. I was like, yeah, perfect, I can do it. So I think that kind of like tight turnaround stuff has worked in my advantage with my time zone, but at the same time, it can work into my disadvantage if something needs to be done, during the day or in the morning in America. It's like I got to stay up late or get up early or something. But yeah, I think the cool thing about that is, when I kind of started doing this, I first went on Photoshop. I started designing in 2003. I never thought that I would be able to kind of still work from home in Australia and do this kind of stuff. I don't think there was even a thing like back then. Like, most like teams probably just got like an agency, or the leagues had an agency working on stuff, and then media companies probably had one or two internal designers. I don't think really anyone worked with like contractors and kind of like, or especially overseas. So I think it is really cool that, like you mentioned, everything's kind of like never off. There's no off button, because it allows a lot of work for people like me that do freelance work and are contractors. I think if the world was tied, if all these companies, teams, sporting leagues were tied down to internal staff only, those people would burn out because there's so much work needed. There's so much stuff needing to go out at any time, any day. I think it's people don't realize until you kind of working for someone that you kind of notice how much work gets put out.
Yeah, it's insane. I give a lot of props to companies like Bleacher Report too, who round the clock, they're pretty much the first ones to respond to any major sporting news, which can be very difficult to do. I mean, even at 2 a.m, they got someone or something that's on top of breaking news, And you're right though. If they only relied on full-time employees, I don't think enough would get done, or I definitely don't think sports would be covered to the magnitude that they are now.
No, and you would have a lot of disgruntled staff as well.
Right.
It wouldn't be a good, culture to be involved in, where you're working full time all the time.
Yeah, I can't imagine too many people being too happy with that. Well, you wouldn't be able to live your life. So I mean, that's a different lifestyle. But what is you've worked with so many different brands and companies. What is is there one company you wish you worked with, or maybe worked with more, or is there a certain project? There has to be something, right?
Sorry, can you? Was that what I worked for, or who I want to work for?
Yeah, there has to be some company that you still want to work for, or some brand, or maybe it's some project, right? That.
Oh yeah, I think I put something up on my story a few days ago where I had this bucket list thing that I wanted to do. When I think I was scribbling it down when I was heaps young, 13 at the time. And the only thing that's left on kind of the bucket list I wanted to do was design a shoe for Jordan. And I know that probably won't ever happen. I'm not really that's really not my my type of work anyway. But at the time, I used to draw a lot of shoes. I used to draw a lot. I used to draw comics, and I used to kind of just draw my own shoe sort of thing. And I kept doing that until probably the year after high school. And I would have a book probably floating around somewhere with all these shoe designs that I would draw. So I was kind of big into that. But I mean, I never wanted to be a footwear designer or anything, but it was just kind of I don't know. I just didn't really like drawing people in art classes and stuff like that at school, because I just found it kind of boring. You just kind of drawing a person. Whereas if I'm drawing a shoe, I'm not drawing a shoe that's already been made. I'm kind of drawing, there's more creativity kind of in trying to draw something that, that hasn't been made yet. And you're kind of obviously being inspired by, previous shoes and stuff like that. But if you're just doing a portrait drawing of someone, you're not really putting your own spin on it.
Right.
You're just drawing someone. So that's kind of what I enjoyed to do, drawing comics, drawing shoes. So I think that would be a really cool thing to do. But I don't think it will ever happen. I don't really have I haven't had a motivation or anything to do it. It was just it was interesting. That was the last thing scribbled down that I haven't done.
No, that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know what because obviously I'm not in that field either, and I'm not sure. I wouldn't even know where to start with designing a shoe. I just know there's certain shoes I'm attracted to. I really like Kyrie Irving shoes. I liked LeBron's old shoes. I mean, Jordans are always pretty classic. But is there one shoe that's your go-to, or anything that you think is just something you would design, or along the lines of that?
Yeah, design-wise, just looks-wise, fashion-wise and everything, I really like the Jordan 5. That's probably my all-time favorite shoe. the on-court, like the design, like the feel of shoes and stuff like that for on-court. Like I feel like I can't go past the Kobe shoes. I think on-court, and I think the more players in the league now still wear Kobe shoes than any other player. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's still right. The traction, the feel, and everything's so good. But I don't think, like, I wouldn't rock many Kobe's, like, casually, kind of like, with pants or shorts, like walking around sort of thing.
Right.
I'll kind of do that with Jordans, but Kobe's, I'll just have those as kind of on-court sneakers. So, I mean, it'd be really cool to even, like, have the chance to, like, say, for example, like, there's, like, a Jordan 5 or something where, like, that's the canvas, but you're working within, like, you're kind of, like, kind of working within the frame. So you're not, like, designing a shoe from scratch, but you're kind of just working kind of around, the different parts and elements and designing on top of the shoe. That would still be, like, a really cool thing. And I guess, like, you could do that yourself. You could literally buy, like, all white, like, Nike Air Force One or something. And, like, I think there's some really talented people that do, like, kind of a lot of, like, spray painting and stuff like that on shoes and actually customize shoes for players. But I think my goal was not to, like, kind of customize a shoe. It was kind of to, like, make a new shoe. But like you mentioned, like, I don't know, I used to just draw shit. Like, I wouldn't know if it was, like, it wasn't trend. I don't know, I'm too old to know what's trendy and stuff now. Like, I don't even, like, understand, like, all this, like, off-white stuff. And
the off-white.
I think that stuff looks garbage, like, to be honest. But,
do you like the Yeezys? Like, I don't know if you saw the ones that Sean was wearing when we were in San Francisco.
Yeezys, I'd rather wear a tissue box. If you left like 100 tissues in there, like, so you could get some comfort, I'd rather wear a tissue box. Some of those Yeezys are disgusting. They just look awful. But, like, I'll probably get heat for saying it. Like, but, like, kids love it. But I think, like, it's just that whole Kanye West factor. Anything that he has his name, brand, face attached to, people just think
it's gold,
or whatever they say.
Yeah. Oh, those shoes sell for like $500, $600, $700 too. That's the crazy thing.
Yeah, that's the other thing I don't like about the sneaker market is, like, everything's, like, so limited and stuff like that these days. Like, they try and, like, create a kind of, like, a need and a want for these shoes, where, like, if they just mass produce them, there wouldn't be this crazy kind of like hunt for these shoes. But then everyone should be able to get them, and they get them at a lower price. I think it's quite greedy. But I understand from a marketing point of view, like, it makes sense. Like, it makes people, rather than just being able to get this shoe, like, it's going to make you want it so much more. And be valued so much more if there's only a limited amount of them.
Right. I one shoe that came out recently, well, not even recently, I think it was back in March or April, but Paul George came out with those PlayStation shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Those looked like pretty cool to me, and I was like, I wanted to grab a pair if I could, but they sold out so damn quick, and then they're being resold for $400 or $500. It's like, well, I'm not paying $500 for a freaking sneaker. Like,
and the disappointing thing is with that is a large percentage of people wouldn't buy the shoe because they want the shoe. They're just buying the shoe because it's a payday for them. Like,
right.
Like, we have the same, like, the shoe releases, like, at Foot Locker, where it's like, oh, there might be only like 20 shoes in each store. We have those same things that America have in Australia, but we actually get it the day before because of the day.
You're a time zone ahead, so.
Yeah, and I've gone to some of those, and there's literally, like, there's just people, like, they'll have a one per customer thing, but someone will come with their mum, their sister, their brother, their two friends, like, so then, like, that they're just there. They'll buy one shoe for themselves, and their mum, their sister, their brother, their two friends are all going to buy another shoe, and they're just going straight on the resale market. So they might make, $4 or $5 grand. Like, it's insane.
No, I've noticed, especially in the last, like, 2 years, I've noticed the whole, like, trend of, like, people who just buy a ton of shoes just to resell them and make a ton of money. And it's unfortunate that, like, the true fans who want the shoes don't really end up with the shoes most of the time, unless they pay an insane resale price.
Yeah, I could never justify myself paying anything over regular retail price. Like,
Yeah,
I just feel like I'm getting ripped off. I was like, why should this person be profiting off buying a shoe and selling it? Like, they didn't do anything. Like, they may have lined up or like, but yeah,
then you can't even wear them. Like, right? You spend $500 on sneakers, you're not gonna wear those out. You're gonna be like, these are for show. I'm gonna put them in a glass box.
I used to be big on shoe, like kind of like buying those kind of like new release shoes and stuff like that. But I probably stopped 7 or 8 years ago, just because I don't know. I was just like I was probably spending maybe $2-3 grand a year on shoes, and then the ones that I'd only buy ones that I really like. But then when I really like something, I don't want to wear it.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah, I'd have 50 shoes maybe. And I reckon 40 of them I've never worn.
That's crazy. That's what it is now, though. It's
And it was one thing, I was so pissed. I went on a holiday, and I was still living with my parents at the time. And my dad went through my room and threw out all the boxes of shoes in my room, but not the shoes, just the boxes.
Yeah.
And I was still pissed because I was just like, if you're trying to like if you're trying to like sell them like in 10
That's
years
a
time
big,
or something, they'll sell for so much more if you've got the box.
Right.
And they've never been worn before. It's like a brand new thing. So. I was so pissed off.
Wow. I don't blame you. That's a ton of money that you kind of literally threw out, threw the boxes out.
Yeah, but I've never actually sold a shoe yet, so.
Okay.
Maybe I keep on, I have so much shit. I've still got my Pokemon cards. Like,
oh, man.
I've got thousands. But I had a Charizard card and I saw they're worth like 10 grand or something.
They are.
Like, wrong. But I've got the whole set. I've got every single card.
Wow. Well, if you got that original Charizard, whatever it is, first edition, it's 10
I got
grand.
all the first edition ones. I used to be huge collecting them back in the day, but I probably mistimed selling it. I assume that when the app came out, that like what was it, the Pokemon app that everyone was obsessed with.
The Pokemon Go, or
Pokemon Go. I think that was probably the ideal to kind of sell, but no, they're still sitting in my house right now. So I'll keep on to them.
That's funny. So I got to ask you one last question, because I feel like you probably deal with it more. I mean, a lot of people deal with it, but you probably deal with it much more than like normal or much less known artists. But like, you seem to be a source of inspiration for a lot of young people. And honestly, a lot of people, instead of trying to create their own style, kind of just take what you do and do it to a lesser extent, or it's not obviously the same quality. You ever feel like it's frustrating because they could steal your work, and then what is the line? Like, where's the line between inspiration and being somewhat creative but similar to your style? You know what I mean?
It's a tough topic, because like I know, like, if you try and kind of like have an opinion on this, some people like view you as like you're thinking like you're an elitist or something, like you think you're better than everyone, or like, I don't first and foremost, I don't like how people say that everything is inspired from something. No, it's not. Like, that is the biggest lie. Like, there's no such thing as an original idea. There's no, you had to have taken that from something. Nah, look, I don't sit on my computer and go on Behance and look at other people's. So most of the time, I just make something like. But just because it's been done similar before, it doesn't mean that you kind of use that as inspiration. So I don't like it out when you do say, like, when someone has completely replicated your work. I don't like it out people say, oh well, everything is inspired from something. I think that is the biggest lie. I literally could kill a bird, put tomato sauce on it, scan it, and put it up on Instagram. Is that inspired from something? Probably not, because it's never been done before. Like, I mean, maybe it has, but I'm just saying that as an example. Like, I could do some weird shit. Like, yeah, not everything has to have an inspiration for something. But going back to your question, I think it is a fine line. So I think there's inspiration and then there's replication, and I think and there's kind of like a line. So where I think it's not good is when, for example, say if I do client work, if I do something for a client and then someone else is replicating it for another client or the same client, I think that's when it's like, no, you've kind of crossed the line, because like it's not even inspiration. It's too similar, but also like, who's to say my client is might think might think my work is being copied off this other person's. Like, there's not like a time date stamp that kind of like proves like who made this first, sort of thing. So I don't mind it's too much if it's kind of like personal work, you're putting it out there. But like, yeah, like for example, like a Behance pro, like I'd rarely put up my work on Behance.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen like a lot of my, like, I did like a whole, like, I could, do stuff for the NBA or do stuff for, any of my clients, and someone could replicate it and put it on Behance months before I get around to doing it. And I've done that before, and like I've put it on Behance and someone's just like, oh, this looks so much similar to this. And it's like, yeah, because I made this like 18 months ago, but I've just got around to posting it on Behance now. Like it is things like that that's kind of like a little bit weird. Like,
right.
But I think, I don't know, it is hard. Like, I think that obviously it's okay if people are inspired and stuff like that. Like, for example, like, it's a shitty example, but like, I did that Derrick Rose wallpaper. I put out maybe 2-3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I reckon I was tagged in maybe 20 Derrick Rose designs in the next week after that. Now, that wasn't me like, oh, they're copying me, they're like doing Derrick Rose designs. I didn't care about that. That's like cool, like that kind of stuff's just like, oh, maybe some of those people were inspired to make a Derrick Rose design because he was a cool player. Like, he still is a cool player, but like, stuff like that, that's inspiration. That's cool. Like, I like that stuff. But when it's just like, if you do something where literally the person has pixel by pixel ripped it, it's just, it's not right. And I mean, I've had situations where agencies and massive companies have plagiarized my work, I've called them out for it, and like they've admitted, like, I can't name names because I've most of the times when it happens, like you kind of get paid. So basically, you get paid hush money to like
right.
never think about the incident again. But I've been told by agencies, yeah, like, we sat around a mood board and we literally just threw your work on the mood board, and then I told the junior designers to make it look like this. And then the art director will say, like, look, it's not the junior designer's fault because I told him to do that. It's my fault because I kind of got lost. I made him make it look so much like your work, and then the client liked it, so I couldn't really change it anymore. Yeah. So there's that kind of stuff, which is like, man, fuck that. Like, agencies shouldn't be sitting around a mood board, like, picking up. That's where I don't like it. Like, if an agency's doing it, like, because I was like, you know what? If you wanted that work done and done properly, you could have just hit me up. Like, I could have done that. You could have outsourced that to me instead of like trying to get like a junior designer to do it and make like a tacky version of it.
Right.
And then the client ends up looking bad. Like, they're the ones that looks like they've stolen the work.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know. It's kind of difficult though, because like I mean, I don't know if you like, have you called out people before? But like, I know for sure, I don't really do it anymore, but I've definitely done it in the past where I've like called out someone. I'll be like, like you fucking just stolen that from me, sort of thing. And then like maybe like 50% of the time, people are like, oh yeah, like, what the hell are you doing? And then the other 50% of the time, people are like attacking you, like for like. It feels like you're viewed as an asshole for like protecting your work, sort of thing. Like,
yeah.
And I've even said, like, have you seen the Instagram page? It's like editing confessions or something like that.
I haven't. No.
Well, there's like weird shit like that that goes up. And I think there was one topic that went up, and it was just like, there's no such thing as a style. Like, nobody has a style. And it's just like, no one can own. Okay, yeah, you can't own a style. I understand that, but like, we know that most designers have a style without them saying it, or like, 9 times out of 10, I reckon if, like, say for example, the NFL posted something that I did, but I didn't say I did it, you might see it and go like, I reckon Tyson may have done that.
Yeah.
And I see that with, like, especially with a lot of illustrators and also a lot of designers as well. Like, say a Bleacher Report put something out, I'm like, because they obviously don't put credit on the work, I'll know who did it. Like, I'll be like, oh yeah, Ryan did that.
Right.
Like, Ryan just did that. Or, oh no, like Bam 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 did that, Julian did that. Yeah. Like, you just know that. So I think it is it is stupid to say that no one can kind of like have a style. It's like, well, yeah, you can have a style. You can't, like, obviously own a particular style, like that's yours, but it is difficult. Like, inspiration's cool if it's done in a way where you're kind of like building upon an existing work, maybe, or just kind of feeding from it. But it's when it's replication, like, it's just, I don't know, it's frustrating. And it also, the worst thing about it is the person that is plagiarizing or replicating the work, it's actually devaluing the original work. So it's like, oh, it can be done pretty easy. Like, it can be done by a 13-year-old kid. Like, it can be done on an app. Like, it might not look as good, but yeah.
I've gone from, I used to call people out, right? And
I reckon you did. I remember. Like, I think you've even like tagged me in things, or like tagged other people in things.
I have. And I used to be big on it. And what I've noticed now, since I've worked in the industry, and I've done a lot of freelance work and then obviously working full time, is I realize a lot of the time it's not even the artist. It will be someone above them who's like, we want this, like exactly this. And that's when I stopped calling out the artist, because you don't really know if they did it on purpose or if it was just a company in general, like you said. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, that is a different situation. But yeah, I mean, I came across a situation with that with Hometown Designs. Jimmy Mitchell had his work just completely plagiarized by another designer. But yeah, he was instructed to design something that looked like what Jimmy did, for the Chicago Bulls. So it's just like, well, I didn't like that, because it's like, well, someone's done that for like a client. So it's not great to kind of plagiarize like the client work. I know it's still not morally right to do like a personal work, but I feel like if it's client work, it's worse when it's plagiarized, because
I mean, they were paid for it then,
Yeah, and also, like, they own, like, if you do something, say, for example, for a client, like, more than likely, like, they own the intellectual property of that. So what you're selling your work to them, and they think they're getting something original that hasn't been kind of copied off someone else. So if someone copies you, it's like, well, like, it's not even me. Like, that company has the intellectual property of that. So it's not really the right thing to do to feed off that. But with the whole thing of, like, yeah, maybe a marketer, maybe like someone, a boss of a company told you to do that, I still think it still has to be partially blamed to the designer, even if you're instructed to do it, because as a designer, you should morally know that it's not right to completely, put X's and squares and circles in the exact same position. Like, have the font be exactly the same, have like literally like the way it's laid out constructed exactly the same, that it looks like it's fed straight from the original source.
Right.
Your job is to look at it and go, oh, okay, there's X's, squares, circles, like, okay, maybe I'll put them here, maybe I'll put them bigger, maybe I do like strokes instead of solid lines, like kind of like, put your own twist on it, and then like the client should still be like, oh yeah, this looks cool. Like they shouldn't be like, oh no, it's not exactly the same as this. Like you'd be crazy to actually say that. So yeah, I understand what you're saying though, that the designer isn't always just sitting there like creating something from their kind of from no guidance. Sometimes there is guidance telling you to kind of copy something.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I know, like, anytime someone says to me, like, oh, we want something like this, I'll make sure it's kind of just like it, right? Like, it's not a complete rip. Because you get that. So
yeah, it's hard to work on those projects, isn't it? Oh, like those requests.
Oh, it is. I hate it. I hate when someone's like, we want something like this, because it's like, all right, well, how do I make it like that and not identical, you know?
Yeah. I remember, like, I had a client that came to me once and they were like, oh, we want, like, I don't know how to say her name. There's Caroline, I think it's like Patikeo or something like that.
Oh, yes.
So they want, like, she does kind of that Adobe, like the iPad drawing face stuff. And I had a client that asked, oh, can we have, like, can you do this? And I was just like, because she's got a very like particular style with that. Yeah. Even though some people say you can't have a style, but she has a very particular style with that. And our client asked me, "Oh, can you they reference those?" And I was just like, "Well, if you want something like that, here's her details."
Yeah.
Like, why should I be doing that?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you've got the person, you've linked the person. Like,
you clearly know how to reach them.
Yeah, like, if you want it done properly, just use that person. And then there's no issue. Then there can't be any like, oh, this person got like, because you got the original person that does that work, rather than trying to find someone to replicate the work. Like it's just a stupid idea. Like I don't really understand why people do that.
No, I agree with you 100%.
But yeah, it's still a fine line though. Like I guess like we've spoken about this for a few minutes, and like there still isn't like a right or wrong answer.
No,
I think, but you know, like the Instagram accounts and stuff like that like you tend to know, like if someone puts something out and a day later, like someone like puts out something exactly the same, like you know you've done it,
right?
But like I don't think, like you said, there's no like roasting. Like people don't kind of call people out anymore.
No, I'd say a lot of that's, I don't know, in the past, or you just don't see it as much as you used to, without a doubt.
I think you can be viewed. People kind of view you poorly if you also do it as well.
Right.
So I think it's really a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, there's no winning when it comes to that, and I think it's mostly just best to avoid it at this point.
Yeah, but I think, from my personal opinion is, if an agency or a company does it, like,
oh, it's fair game. Yeah, it's fair game.
Like they're fucking making bank. Like they may have made like 10 grand or something from
right.
Like a day's work from like taking that, replicating your work. So like I'd go hard at them. But if it's just like a kid on Instagram, maybe like whatever. Like just kind of maybe just gently like contact them, DM them. Maybe that's the other thing. I don't publicly shaming don't always work. As that whole thing, I was just like, I don't really get it. But like now that I'm saying it, I'm sure people would just comment on that. Like you put up a post and then someone's just like, not your best.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, I've put up like 700 posts. Wouldn't that mean 699 of them aren't my best?
Yeah.
Like you could literally comment on 699 of my posts and say not my best. Because only one can be your best. Like I really understand that, where like we put up our posts, but we're not really I don't really see people putting up work asking for feedback. So I don't really get why people will be like, oh yeah, it looks good, but like it should be brighter, or like it looks good, but the players should be smaller. And it's just like, where did I say, can I have some feedback? Like I don't really understand that.
I love when people do that. It's like, I didn't ask. Like if I ask, that's one thing, but and especially when you get it, no offense, but like to people who are much less qualified, like are amateur graphic designers. That's what's like, all right, like, no offense, but you don't even have, you're 16 years old, 15 years old.
Yeah, but also like, also when I probably don't mind as much when it's personal work, but when it's client work, it's just like,
Oh,
they don't
God.
even know. They don't even know what kind of went on with that project. They don't know like the 8 versions that I did before. Like, they'll be like, oh, I don't like the font you used. Maybe that was like the 12th font the client chose. Like,
Right.
maybe I don't even like the font. Like,
No.
yeah,
I've been there. I still am there. I deal with it a lot, so I totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
So I think a lot of the youth don't really kind of understand, like, you don't really make something and then just like that's just everything that you do. You love, like, a lot of the stuff we put up, or we put up, like, it's not 100% like what we wanted. Like, it's
Right.
the client does have opinions and approvals and stuff like that. That's why I think it is key. Like, personal work is huge, like, because that can be 100% you.
Yeah, that's your vision. Where client work, usually there's going to be tweaks that are not in your vision, and
it's like
totally
a collaborative kind of thing to get to the end.
Right.
And then also, they don't know the brief. They haven't read the brief. Maybe the brief wanted a particular style, or the text needed to be huge, the logo needed to be big, like,
Exactly.
Couldn't just be like this cool looking, like,
you have sponsors.
Not everything can just look cool.
Right. No, I agree with you. Well, actually, I have one last story before I let you go from that San Francisco trip. I don't know if you remember this, but when we went to the Warriors game, obviously you had the media pass, so you were able to go onto the court and take the photos. But me, Matt, and Ishan had tickets, I don't know, probably like 10 rows from the court.
Good seats.
Good seats, great seats.
Yeah.
But I remember we got to the game early. We got there literally when the doors opened. Yeah. And we took the passes, the artist passes we got at Dubz Against the World, and tried to use them as the sideline passes. So we go down to the court, and there's like a lady there, and she recognizes immediately that these are not media passes. So we walk around to the other side of the court.
You were wearing Warriors jerseys.
Yeah, I was wearing a Kevin Durant jersey. I think Ishan was like in normal street clothes, and then like Matt was wearing a Warriors jersey. And we walk around to the other side of the court, and we just pretend like we're just like we belong. And it works for about 5 to 6 seconds before one of the security guards pulled us out and got real pissed and made us go to our seats.
I reckon 50% is just confidence and just looking like you're meant to be a part. I am pretty certain that if you were wearing like a business shirt or any kind of casual clothes even that wasn't Warriors related, you could have probably got there with that pass.
Probably. But remember, it was funny when we entered the stadium, they didn't believe you that you were part of the media because you were in casual clothing.
I was in a Jordan jacket and stuff like that. They didn't believe me at all.
Yeah, no, they didn't want to let you in. They're like, you're not part of the media. What is this?
Yeah, media don't usually dress like this, and I was just like, I don't need to be in a suit. There's nothing that requires me to be in a suit.
Right.
But then that was funny because like remember Matt brought in like the big lens, and they were like, oh no, you can't come in with that to Matt. Like you're gonna have to put that somewhere, and we're like, what? Like
we Ubered here.
Lenses. And I was just like, oh, I'm media. He was just holding it for me, and then I kind of grabbed it, put it in my bag, and then we got through.
Yeah.
So that was really lucky.
No, that was a fun time.
The whole like the media things, it's a bit weird. It's like, people aren't like kind of like fully dressed up. I mean, like I think anything like. There's no dress code. Like, I guess to look professional, wear a suit, but you can be casual and stuff like that. The photographers are usually pretty casual. They're wearing sneakers, maybe like a polo or something. But that was a pretty good game.
No, it was a good game. That was just a funny story. I just remember that. And Ishan and Matt were using their BR credentials trying to convince this lady that we weren't. We were able to be sidelined with you, but didn't. Didn't quite work.
I'm surprised that it didn't. I mean, yeah. I feel like if it wasn't the Warriors, maybe. If we were at a Memphis Grizzlies game.
Maybe. Maybe. But I appreciate, Tyson, you taking the time to come on this show and chat with me, and it's been a pleasure, man.
Oh no, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
No problem. Guys, if you don't follow Tyson already, which is probably unlikely to listen to this, at Tyson Beck Design. It's just Tyson Beck now, right?
On Instagram, yeah. On Twitter, it's Tyson Beck Design.
Okay, I wasn't too sure.
And and it's not Tyson Beckford. I'm getting sick of Kardashian fans fucking DMing me. It's a joke.
Wait, Tyson Bedford?
There's a black model called Tyson Beckford, and he says, I think he attacked the Kardashians.
Oh.
And because I guess I got a blue tick, maybe when they write Tyson Beck, as they're typing it in, maybe. I don't know.
Gotcha.
I've got my profile picture, I'm pretty sure it's just my face, so I don't look anything like Tyson Beckford. So, yeah, any of those, just stop DMing me. I didn't attack Kim Kardashian.
There you go, guys. You heard it from the source himself. But that does it for another episode of the Bad Design Podcast. Appreciate you guys for listening. Please subscribe, follow if you enjoy what we do, and till next time.